Hello, Mike, the channel, and today we'll be doing a video talking about the conference dark horses for different champions we could see in these conferences. It'll be at least one from every major conference. I think I got two in most. And then we'll have an extra group of five champion, one of my favorite teams that I bet on last year. I talked about a lot. I think he even had ranked at one point potentially. And he was my fantasy quarterback last year, and he's just a guy that I think is going to do a really good thing. So we'll start off with the NC State Wolfpack. They have a pretty favorable schedule, I would say, in addition to a lot of hype coming into this season. A lot of that becomes with their transfer portal. They had a pretty good transfer portal class coming in, headlined by Grayson McCall. He's had a down season or two the last few years, but when you think of him, you think of those great Coastal Carolina teams. The matchup, I forgot, it was like the COVID matchup they kind of scheduled in the middle of the crazy COVID season, where they brought in BYU to town, and they played on their teal field. But now he's over with the Wolfpack. They brought in Noah Rogers, a receiver from Ohio State. Jordan Walters will be their starting running back from Duke. Grace McCall, obviously already stated. Zeke Carell will be starting on the offensive line, a transfer in from Notre Dame. And then they brought in as well Justin Jolly, a tight end from UConn. So a few tight ends here, starting everything off there. And overall, they've got a pretty good thing going on there. They have head coach Dave Duren doing their thing out there. Their schedule, they start off with Western Carolina. Then they have a very interesting game, technically a neutral site, but not really, in Raleigh. In Charlotte. They're playing Tennessee week 2. So that'll be one of those sneaky games where it's like, hey, there's actually a really good game on this week. So you think of the games like Texas and things like that, but at night, 7:30 ABC, you have Tennessee playing them. They then have Louisiana Tech at home, at Clemson, home against Northern Illinois, home against Wake Forest, home against Syracuse, at Cal, which is, yes, a conference game, and then home against Stanford, again, yes, a conference game. That's bookended by a bye week in there. Then they have Duke at home, at Georgia Tech, at North Carolina. So when you're looking at the schedule, there's really only like 2 games you really can see them losing, and probably projected to lose, and that's Tennessee, which they're going to be probably a slight underdog in, I believe, if I have the spread correct, and then probably at Clemson, right? But as we've seen in years past, Clemson's kind of had some up and down years. They do avoid playing Miami. They do avoid playing another good favorite in the conference, Florida State. So they kind of make up for that with Tennessee. But that being said, when we're looking at an underdog like this, they are plus 700 on DraftKings to win the conference. Just getting into the game and being competitive, right? If you beat Clemson, you can definitely see this team making it. That's the fun thing with these out of conference games, is it works in your favor for ranking. But if you lose, it's not the end of the world, because it's not a conference loss, obviously. So looking forward onto the next team will be the Miami Hurricanes, staying in the ACC. They are plus 440 with your best odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. Looking at them, you got to start with the head coach, Mario Cristobal. Can he win the big game? That's the question everyone will ask. Everyone's going to be asking. Obviously, that Georgia Tech game last year was one of the biggest debacles we've probably ever seen in football. I mean, the game, you can say that the story, they stole defeat from the jaws of victory. Normally it's the opposite. They won. They should have taken the knee. They decided to get the 100 yards rushing like they thought they were John Harbaugh over in Baltimore. But hey, they bring in some transfers: Sam Brown, Zach Carpenter, CJ Clark, Simeon Barrow, and Tyler Barron. But when you think of the transfers, you think of the big two. That is Cam Ward from Wake Forest, from Wazoo, and Damian Martinez from Oregon State. Sam Brown comes in from Houston. He's going to be a good receiver to pair with Xavier Restrepo. Tyler Barron staying in the conference from Louisville. And then a few guys left the program, but one of their bigger brought-ins was Michelle Powell from Washington. Middle Tennessee State, they get their get back for this one. Marley Cook comes in as a D tackle. There's pretty much everybody you're worried about there. Zach Carpenter comes in as a guard from Indiana. I think he's going to be playing center, according to the depth chart he is. But it all comes down to Cam Ward and David Martinez, right? Their defense is really good. You know, Ruben Baines and other big guys on that defense. Can they do their job? Yes, they kind of did last year. And with Jacoby George, with Xavier Restrepo, now Sam Brown coming in, you've got 3 solid receivers. You've got a very good offensive line, Jalen Rivers, Samson Okuma, and as Cooper, Francis Magua, and then obviously the new transfer, Zach Carpenter, Elijah Arroyo at tight end, and then you have Cam Ward and Damian Martinez, number 1 and number 0. So a cool back field there. You know, they had Tyler Van Dyke last year. They had other guys play. It was, you know, kind of a big thing. Emory Williams even had a few starts last year. And it was kind of a debacle of a season. And I believe they went, 7-5? 7-6. I think they lost in the bowl game to Rutgers. I don't know if it was 8-5 or 7-6, something like that. But they look to really take another step forward this year. Obviously, you know, the Canes are one of the biggest fan bases online, and they're going to be going up against an immovable object versus unstoppable force week 1, August, 20-something days from now. They're going to be playing at Florida, 3:30 ABC. Game of the week. I'm trying to think of other games, even week 1. I don't know if there's any of that many, but this is the biggest game, not only for us watching as fans, us as neutrals, but us watching the fan base's fallouts. If Miami loses this game, this season's almost already a failure, as crazy as that sounds. Mario Cristobal totally under fire. And then, the other side, you've got Florida. I don't know if they're expecting to lose this game, but they're already calling for Napier's job before the season starts. They have one of the hardest schedules in the country. And it's like, dude, if they win that game, everything changes, right? Their whole season's in front of you. You win a rivalry game week 1. I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine if it was like Michigan, Ohio State? I know that's not the level of this rivalry, but Michigan, like Notre Dame week 1. I know it used to be earlier in the season, but if you're Notre Dame, you beat Michigan week 1, you're like, well, we got everything in front of us. And they are going to have that possibility for sure. Because after that, they play Florida A&M at home. They play Ball State at home. They play at South Florida, which would be a sneaky, tricky game. Home against Virginia Tech. I mean, you look at 5-0 at Cal. It's a tricky game on the road. Obviously, traveling cross country, which is, again, a conference game against, Cal. Crazy. They come home, have a bye. Then they go at Louisville. That'll be a tough game. Home against Florida State. Tough game. If they can win, split those two, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-1, right? You're probably going to lose to Florida State. But that's at home. I know it's not a big home advantage in Miami. No disrespect to Miami fans. I think they know that as well. Then they have home against Duke. That's probably a win. Looking at 8-1 at Georgia Tech. Again, all games could get tricky. I mean, you're going to be favored. So we're just going off the teams they were favored by. That's 9-1. Then they go against Wake Forest. That's 10-1. At Syracuse could get really tricky. At worst, it's looking at 10-2 is the thought process. Assuming you win week 1. I know you're a favorite on the road, but it's a rivalry game. You kind of throw that all out the window. So if they win week 1, they are really in for a good season here. And that's kind of like one of those things I like to do with some of these futures. Like if you think of it like a Texas future, obviously me as a Michigan fan, would be very biased and say you shouldn't take a Texas future till after week 2 to get a good price. Looking at Miami here, the plus 440 to win the conference. I know it's not a conference game, but I'm sure if you think Florida is going to beat Miami, you can wait, and I'm sure they'll get better value, whether it's if you make the playoffs, win 10 games, any of those futures. For the conference, it might not change as much, but I think it will. I mean, I think you could probably see plus 460 potentially if they lose week 1, but it could be a buy low opportunity like a stock. Because, I do like to think of futures as stocks sometimes because, you could hedge out mid-season, cash out, and things like that. But 440, I think, is very good value. I would be surprised if Miami and NC State both were not in the game. Like if at least one of them was in it, I would be surprised if it wasn't the case. Because Clemson's got some question marks. Florida State's really good. But Clemson, I know I was the one beating my chest for Clemson last year. I think I predicted them to go undefeated, and they lost week 1 on that Monday night game against Duke. It was an absolute nightmare. But we've seen crazier things in the ACC before. So now we'll move over to, I don't even know what conference we're going to do. Let's do Oklahoma State in the Big 12. They're 800 to win the conference, plus 800, 8-1, depending on which type of odds you like to use. This is over at Fanduel. You get the best price for them there. Now, I like to start with a transfer portal. That's usually the thing I do. when it comes to these schools, but I think they only had like 8 guys come in the transfer portal. Most left. Not most, a few guys left. But they bring in Obi Exibio, excuse me. I don't know where he's from. There's some like D2 logo here. And then Tyler Foster, a tight end from Ohio. And that's it. What do you mean that's it? They have 20 returning starters. 20. And you don't even got to worry about 19 of them. They have one guy you need to worry about, and that is Ollie Gordon Jr. This kid came out of absolute nowhere halfway through the season. Fantasy people, he was the best fantasy pickup you've probably seen in a long, long, long time. He's really good. By really good, he should be in the Heisman conversation. Will he? Probably not. I don't even remember his stats last season, but they were absolutely unbelievable. Here, I'll pull them up right now. It's worth the break in the programming here to talk about what the hell is going on with Oklahoma State and their running back situation last year. Ollie Gordon had 1,700 yards. How many receiving yards did he even have? 330. So he had 2,000 all-purpose yards and 22 touchdowns. That's pretty good. I believe it's almost best in the country. Actually, let me pull it up. Again, this is worth the break. At quarterback, they do have Alan Bowman. I think it's like a 7th year. So he's on that Jack Tuttle thing. I know he was actually, speaking of Jack Tuttle, he was teammates with Jack Tuttle for a year over at Michigan. It won't show me the rankings. That's annoying. Usually on ESPN, it shows me the rankings of it. But yeah, he's 6'2", 225. He's the big guy you think of. Obviously, when you're playing the video game right now, I think he's the second highest rated running back. Rightfully so. Very, very, very good. And he makes his offense go. If you've got a relatively quarterback in Alan Bowman, if you got a running back that's averaging 5 yards a carry, and every time he touches the ball, everyone focuses on him, it's easy to hit the open guy. You bring in another guy, Tyler Foster, a good tight end from the MAC. It adds that passing game along with Brennan Presley, Dejon's dribbling, and Rashad Owens. So a very, very senior team. Let's see. You got a redshirt senior, redshirt senior, senior, redshirt senior, redshirt senior, redshirt senior, redshirt senior, redshirt senior, senior, redshirt senior, redshirt senior. So the offense, you have all but one senior, and that is Ollie Gordon, and he's going to go pro. So your whole offense is going to leave. So Oklahoma State might be in a world hurting next year. And then their defense, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 11 seniors. And the rest of them are redshirt juniors. So very veteran team, very old team with a lot of new teams coming in the conference. Continuity is going to be very important, and they have the most continuity without a doubt. Looking at their schedule, they start off with, it's loading here, sorry, South Dakota State at home, 2 o'clock. Be an interesting game. They should take care of business, but obviously South Dakota State's one of the better D2 programs, so it'll be an interesting game nonetheless. Arkansas at home, you're looking at 2-0. At Tulsa, probably more Oklahoma State fans of that game than Tulsa fans, no disrespect. 3-0. Home against Utah. Great first test here. We'll see how Cam Rising looks going up to this point. But you're probably going to lose one of this game or the next game, which is at Kansas State. So we'll just say, I'm not even going to predict which one they lose. I'm just going to say 4-1, right? Then you go forward at home against West Virginia. That's 5-1. At BYU after a bye. The bye helps. I think you're going 6-1. At Baylor, so you get tricky, but Baylor is one of the lowest win totals in the conference. I think they have like a win total of 4.5. So looking at 7, I think that is. What, 7-1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-1. Yep. Home against Arizona State, 8-1. At TCU, very tricky. And then home against Texas Tech, you're going to split 2 there. You're going to lose at least one of those 2, if not both. So that's 8-2-ish. And then at Colorado last week, you never know. Colorado, I mean, we're looking at 9-3 is probably a good prediction here around that. So I think that gets you into the title game. I mean, last year they made it, I think, at 10-2 or 9-3. And they did get bounced pretty hard, but they were less than plus 8-1. So I think that they're probably the second or third best team in this conference. I like Kansas State a lot in this conference. They do avoid playing Kansas, which helps them out a lot. Iowa State, I know, is tricky as well, but it's going to be a juggernaut of a conference. They have continuity. They've got probably the best player in the conference. I know people at Colorado will get mad at me, but you got Ollie Gordon. So that alone should take you to what should be a championship game appearance in the Big 12, and I definitely think they can win it. I mean, Mike Gundy, one of the best coaches, crazy quotes this offseason regarding Ollie Gordon, but Thankfully, those don't get held against him. Penn State, 5-1 in the conference. They're up next in the Big Ten, bringing back a lot. They only lost quite a few guys, Adisa Isaac, Chop Robinson on the edge, but they have Abdul Carter kind of step in there and be that next freak on defense. As for their offensive transfers, Nolan Rucci comes in a right tackle. I don't know where he's from. And then Julian Fleming, obviously from the Ohio State. Rucci comes in from, what is that? Wisconsin, excuse me. Coming from Wisconsin. Jalen Kimber and AJ Harris from the SEC in Florida and Georgia, respectively. Jordan Mayer as well comes in as an edge from Wisconsin. Chase Mayer, a kicker from Tulsa. And then, of course, as we said, Julian Fleming. Now, when you look at these guys, it comes down to you got the tight ends are good, Tyler Warren, excuse me. And then you've got the running back duo, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. Probably, I think it's without a question, the best running back duo in the country. These two are absolute unbelievable animals. 1-2, a little bit of speed, a little bit of power, whatever you need. They both got it. And then, it really comes down to Drew Aller, the quarterback. He's got all the tools. People are going to call him the next JJ, and he might have a shaky season, but he's going to go high in the draft. So get ready for Drew Aller to go top 10 in the draft. People get very mad. If he comes out this year, he might stay. But he's big, he's tall, physical. He's been working on his game all year. If he does it right, if he performs the level he should, if he takes the leap that JJ McCarthy did, to compare him to that, then this team's going to be very competitive. I mean, they are favored in 11 out of 12 games, and the only game they're not favored in is Ohio State at home. Okay? Ohio State's got a few questions. Not a lot, but a few. Very small questions. But things could happen, and this game could get out of hand, and they could make it happen. If at West Virginia to start, should be a win. Bowling Green, Kent State at home, 2 wins. Illinois at home, that's another win. UCLA at home, another win. Then they've got 2 tricky games on either side of a bye week. They have at USC, which they should take care of business. This team, you can run it down their throat and take care of business. Their head coach is a bit of an issue, a little liability with James Franklin, but they should get it done. At USC, I think they're a 4-point favorite on the road. That's another win. Then they have at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a bit of a mess. Their air raid's still going through. I don't know if they're going to have it. They lost Braylon Allen. They could kind of have him as like a surefire option if the air raid was not working. They do not have that fallback this season, so I think that that's another win. Then we got at home against the Ohio State. That's the big game. The whole season revolves around this game. If you win this game, Penn State could realistically be a 12-0 team. Will they win this game? Absolutely not. I hate to be that guy as a Michigan fan talking about Ohio State like that, but I mean, it's JTT's one game of the year he plays good in, so they're going to win that game no problem. I don't know about no problem, but they'll win that game relatively comfortably. Like last year, it appeared to be a close game, but Ohio State pretty much was in control the entire time. Then they have at home against Washington. This is their whiteout. They'll win that game. At Purdue, win. At Minnesota, win. Home against Maryland, murder scene. Bet the alternate spread. They might win by 40 as their senior night game. And yeah, that's what we have there, 11-1. So all you need is Ohio State and Oregon to hit each other, and then one of them lose another game, and they sneak in. You need Ohio State to beat Oregon, and then you would maybe sneak in over them at 11-1. I don't know the tiebreakers exactly with them not playing each other, but we'll figure that out when we get there. But 5-1, basically you need them to win 11 games, and they're probably sneaking into the Big Ten championship game, maybe not being the second best team, but they would regardless, and that doesn't matter because that's all you care about. And that's pretty much all you need to know about Penn State. Now we move to my team, the Michigan Wolverines. Look, this defense is going to be absolutely unbelievable. One of the best in the country. In addition to that, you've got some good returning stuff on offense. You got Donovan Edwards coming back, could have gone pro. You've got Colson Loveland, going to be one of the best tight ends in the country. I think he was preseason All-American first team. And then again, the defense you're not scoring on. You're not scoring on the defense. The defense is so unbelievably good. It's not even funny. Okay. I hate to be that guy and just talk about this defense for 5 minutes, but we won't. We'll skip it. But you're not scoring. Okay. This team could be Iowa. And it might be. Why would it might be Iowa? We're talking quarterbacks. The things that I'm not at liberty to explain to you on this channel right now are terrifying. I'm talking horror shows in the quarterback room outside of Jack Tuttle. Are you really going to try to go forward with a 5th year, 6th year? I don't even know. Is he 6th or 7th year guy? Something like that. He's ridiculously old, right? He's pretty much my age, and I've been out of college for 3 years now, coming up on 3 years. Is Tuttle enough to win some games? Probably. Is he healthy enough to win a few games? Probably. But you look at Michigan, all right, I don't even need to go through the schedule. It comes down to 3 games. Texas at home, Oregon at home, at Ohio State. Those are your 3 games. If you win one of those 3 games, you're in the college football playoff, right? If you win 2 of those games, you're probably in the Big Ten championship game, right? You'll be 11-1, losing to Ohio State or Oregon, and there'll probably be a rematch between one of those 2 teams. Who thinks? Or Penn State sneaks in. Could you imagine how funny it would be if it was Michigan versus Penn State in the Big Ten championship game after all offseason? Everyone's just been hyping up Oregon and Ohio State just for fun. Like it's the perennial. Let's make those guys good, and Penn State and Michigan just sneak in. That'd be the funniest thing ever. It'd be the funniest. Will it happen? Maybe, but it'd be the funniest thing ever. Sharon comes in as the first-time head coach. It is what it is. Josh Preeb comes in from North Carolina, from Northwestern. Dominic Zavada is going to be starting as the kicker, coming in from Albany. Jair Hill stepping up at cornerback 2 for Josh Walsh. Very good. And Jashawn Barham, I can't talk about how much I love this guy from Maryland. Going to be an absolute freak. People cannot keep talking about how good this guy is. And we'll see going forward if he's as good as they say he is. But it sure does sound like it. But this video is getting a little long. I don't want to spend too much on Michigan, but what are their odds? They are plus 750, which is crazy for a defending champion. I know they lost a ton, but if the quarterback is okay, if Orgy is half as good as his simps online make him seem to be, you could definitely find this team in the championship game with a hell of a chance to win because it's physical, the play style travels, and the continuity were always there. I mean, look right here. That guy right there, Dom Edwards, he's going to make some noise. And now we move on to, I believe, the SEC here. Yeah, we'll do both teams are 750. We'll do Alabama first, okay? I know I've talked about Alabama a little bit already with what they've had going on. They bring back Jalen Milroe. They bring back Justice Haynes. They have a lot of guys still staying here. Indeed, there's a lot of transfers going in and out. They've had a pretty active portal. But I think that it's going to, again, be like what we talked about a few weeks ago. I made a video, actually, a month ago. If DeBoer, obviously replacing Saban, can do what he did at Washington, right, with the low level of talent, with this crazy level of talent now he's got here at Alabama, if he can change Milroe into what he did with Penix, we're talking a Heisman quarterback. Whether he's in the conversation or not, whether he wins the award or not, he'll definitely be in New York if we get what we think we should be getting out of Milroe with him. I mean, Milroe he checks almost every box. Obviously, the accuracy is a little bit of an issue, but he's fast, twitchy, athletic, can throw it a million miles. His IQ is getting there. He's starting to read coverages a lot better. He's got pretty good arm talent as well. I hate using that term arm talent. It always ends up in like a crazy 10-way argument online when you talk about the word arm talent. But, they got Caden Proctor coming in. They lost a few guys. Obviously, Caleb Downs and a few other top tier guys left. But, the wealth of riches is crazy. You bring in Keon Saab from Michigan, Damani Jackson from USC, sure about secondary, which is an issue. I mean, if you look at the secondary here, a lot of freshmen and a lot of, gold on our lads, which is transfers here. So we'll see what they end up seeing, what happens here with Bama. Looking at their schedule quickly, they have opening against Western Kentucky. They also play South Florida. At Wisconsin, that's 3 wins. Home against Georgia, you are an underdog, but if you win it, we'll see what happens. But right now you're 3-1. At Vanderbilt, win. South Carolina, win. That's 5-1. Tennessee is going to be an interesting game. I think that you can sneak it out, but if Nico's anything is as good as he should be, then it'll be a very tough game. We'll say that as a toss-up right now. Missouri is going to be a win. At LSU, I think this might be a game of the year territory for myself here. I don't see anything at LSU. I don't get this hype. It's them and Notre Dame. I don't understand why everyone's hyping them up so much. LSU lost a ton I mean, the defense got better, but my goodness, they couldn't stop a nosebleed last year. So they have to totally overhaul everything. And really, Grant Nussmeier, whatever. There's a whole different thing. I think they win that game, so I'll give that one as a win. And then they go against Mercer at home, win. At Oklahoma will be a tough game. I mean, but it's Alabama versus Oklahoma. You'd like to think Bama would get that done, so that's a win. And then at home against Auburn, you never know, that's a win. I mean, that's 10-2, right? We'll say they'll lose one of Tennessee or Oklahoma or Auburn, right? They've got 4 games where they're like a tight favorite in. You go 3-1 in those games, you're looking at an 11-1, 10-2 season, and you'd find yourself probably in the championship game. Because I don't know if Texas is going to do all that. I think they're losing to Michigan. So, again, being biased, that's going to be probably a loss on their record. Will they play Georgia? They lose them, maybe. But I think Georgia's in the game, right? And it's who they face, right, in Georgia. But if you got Bama at plus 750, I think it's a good shout. And the other team at plus 750, you probably figured out by now, is Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss. I've said it before. I've kind of dubbed them the Penn State at times of the Big Ten or of the SEC, where it's like, are you finally going to do it this year? Who knows? Their schedule, they've got Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina. That's their first month and a half of the season. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. 6-0, bowl eligible, no problem. At LSU, probably a loss because it's just LSU and laying on the road against probably ranked teams, not very good. We'll just say it's 6-1. I think they can win that game. Home against Oklahoma, going to be a tough game, but you have a bye in front of it, so I like that a lot. That's going to be 7-1. At Arkansas after another bye. Oh, never mind, I can't count. At Arkansas, probably a win. We'll say it's a win. It's 8-1. Now you got Georgia at home. Let's go say it's a loss. I think Georgia's going undefeated. It is what it is. They've got so many guys. Every position's good, especially best quarterback they've had in a while, I think. I mean, Stetson Bennett probably, but it's a whole different argument. We won't even get into it right now. Then you have at Florida. That's gonna be a win. Might be a debut for Lane going to Florida. And then the Egg Bowl home on a Friday this year, not on Thanksgiving anymore. So I guess, guys, not you can't be a college football fan, I guess, on Thanksgiving anymore, which stinks because usually the last game's annoying, and I love watching a little Egg Bowl instead of the Cowboys game. Usually it's a late game. So with that, that's 10-2. Can they beat LSU? Absolutely, they can beat LSU. If Lane beats the allegations of winning a big game on the road, and that team's 11-1. I think they got a better schedule, easier schedule, than they have with Alabama. We just talked about. But looking at the roster, it's Jackson Dart. There was some rumors earlier this morning that he tore his ACL because there's some idiots online, but he's not. He's gonna be good. And it's that defense you got to worry about, right? The offense is fine. You're bringing in Juice Wells as well. Some offensive line transfers are really good. You lose Quinshon Judkins, obviously, to Ohio State, but you have Ulysses Bentley coming in, and you got Henry Parrish as well, Rashad Amos. I mean, that's a good 3-headed monster. But on defense, you brought in some big transfers as well. Also, Juice Wells from South Carolina as a receiver, which is, if he's healthy, it's awesome. Defense, Walter Nolan, one of the best players in the country, D tackle out of A&M. You bring in Princely Umunainen, the guy from Florida, the edge, very good. But they did have the number 1 transfer portal class, so we'll continue to talk about that real quick. I think Walter Nolan was a 5-star in the portal. I don't know who else was. Yep. Judkins obviously left. Princely comes in. Antoine Wells, Juice Wells comes in. Trey Amos, the corner. 2 Amoses came in. But Trey Amos, the corner from Bama. They bring in Chris Paul, the linebacker from Arkansas. They bring in South Alabama safety Yam Banks, Daron Wright, a tight end from Virginia Tech, Logan Diggs, a running back from LSU. He actually had a pretty good season last year. Rashad Amos, running back from Miami, Florida. They also brought in Henry Parrish from Miami, Ohio. Other way around, Miami, Ohio for Amos, Miami, Florida for Parrish. Key Lawrence, a safety from Oklahoma. Nate Kalepo, a guard from Washington. So a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of guys in, a lot of guys out. So eventually, once they get their stride, and I don't even know how long it would say it would take to hit a stride. Probably like 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. They don't have many tough games, so they should be fine to do everything they need to do to get the job done. And can Lane do it? who knows? Will they win the SEC championship game? Not likely, but 750 gets you a dog in the fight, probably. That's going to be an easy thing to hedge out if you don't believe in them to beat likely Georgia in Atlanta. So that is all we have now for the Power 5. I have my favorite Group of 5 team I will talk about right now. It is the South Florida Bulls of Tampa, Florida. If I went down to Tampa for my job, I would have been almost a full-time fan of this team. Maybe gotten some season tickets to go to these games. But they are the American Athletic Conference pick for me. 700, I think, is crazy value. They've got one of the best players in conference in Byron Brown, the quarterback. And yeah, not so much a super in-depth analysis of this team. I can look at their schedule real quick. I mean, they got some tough games beginning. They play Miami and Alabama. Miami's at home, which is very interesting, but they've got the rest of the schedule. Bethune-Cookman at Miami or at Alabama, at Southern Miss. They almost beat Alabama last year. People forget about that. Home against Miami, at Tulane, Memphis, UAB, at FAU, Navy, Charlotte, Tulsa, and at Rice. I'll probably do a more of an in-depth video with this next time, but this is just a little bonus nugget for you sticking at the end of the program here. We'll be taking USF plus 700 thanks to Byron Brown and Coach Alex Golesh. He was the offensive coordinator for Tennessee when they brought that crazy offense in, and they run it with they run that over at USF, and Byron Brown's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. If you have a fantasy college fantasy team, I would recommend drafting him. I had him on my team last year. My quarterbacks are him and Caden Salter, so I had a really good season. But that's all I have for now. Thank you all for watching. A little bit of longer video, but thought we'd start off hopefully the month of videos, doing well and having a good start with it with a big video like this. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.